Good morning, everyone. I'm Jack Hirschman, the editor of AW360, and this is the TechX live stage, and it's a pleasure to be joined by Dan Murray of Dawn. How are you?
A pleasure to meet you. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Good. I'm very lucky because my office is in Soho, so I had a 3-minute walk here, which was pretty pleasant.
Yeah, I've bumped into many people who have complained how difficult it was to get from their hotel to here by a cab, and I said, don't take any cars here.
At least in media, a lot of people based in Soho, right? So
exactly. So for those who may not have come across your business, what is it, and what do you do?
So Dawn is a new company, and we actually have a product launch date of June the 24th, so you'd be forgiven for not actually knowing. But we're creating nutritional products and supplements for the brain, so all promoting healthy brains and brain health. And until then, we have a newsletter, which has been going incredibly well. We send an email every Sunday of brain food. So my job is to study the worlds of psychology, neuroscience, and nutrition for the brain and turn it into something that's actionable and interesting. So I share a newsletter every Sunday, 3 minutes, 3 things you can do for your brain that week, which come from scientifically proven stories in PubMed or other boring journals.
Amazing.
I'm not allowed to call them boring journals on camera.
Yeah.
So interesting.
So this journey, and as a strategy to build a business like that, that's such an interesting thing to dig into, right? Is like, was that end goal in mind of launching a business that sells food supplements to promote healthy brains before you started the newsletter being the strategy to capture people?
Yeah, so I was on like a personal health journey. In my last business, I suffered really badly from anxiety, borderline depression, nothing crazy, but it's the typical thing when you're running a company and all the stress hits you and things aren't going so well. It's all fine when they're going well. Obviously, when not, you suddenly find a new pace. And I became really fascinated in brain nutrition, and I'd never heard of the concept of how food or micronutrients would affect my mood or my sleep or any of these things. And someone bought me this book called Optimum Nutrition for the Mind, and I became fascinated in it. And then I started reading systematically journals all the time, like for the latest science of what I could put into my body. So not all about psychology and community and the obvious things I already understood, but what I was putting into my body and how it might affect me. And as a result, I started to realize I was becoming increasingly nerdy and enjoying this stuff, but I think the thing that I'm good at is communicating. So I was like, actually, most people, unless they're scientists, don't come into contact with this information. So that's when I started writing a newsletter, which was my job. I will read all the boring stuff, and I'll pick 3 things every week that are scientifically proven, so no woo-woo, not trying to be a male Gwyneth Paltrow. And just scientifically proven stuff, and then share it. And that has been a really good process actually for designing our physical products, which won't be out until the summer. But I'm not one to sit around twiddling my thumbs. I'd rather build up an audience and
makes sense completely. I think that is such an interesting gap, right? Like for me personally, I love podcasts like Joe Rogan, Tim Ferriss. We were talking off stage, but like, even still, you find that the people that they have on are talking in that scientific jargon that makes people like dum-dums like me sometimes, it makes it difficult to understand. So even for someone like me, I'm really into all that stuff, and I find it very unapproachable. So the problem that I find with that whole Joe Rogan, Tim Ferriss aspect is extremely Silicon Valley. So it's actually very unapproachable, even if you're interested. It's so ultra-human, biohacking, all this stuff. And it's like, well, actually, I'm kind of normal. I'm just looking to I thought you were an elite athlete.
Yeah, you can tell from the physique, right? But, you kind of just want someone to talk to you in a way that's a little bit more approachable, talking about scientific fact, whereas a lot of stuff that they're doing is they're trying the latest hacks and trends that could be fads or could be scientifically disproven later. And that's absolutely fine, but on a personal level, I'd rather not put untested chemicals into my body on the basis of testing. I'd rather go to what's already in nature and find out what could be applied there.
So as a person, I don't know what your background is. Sorry, I should have asked. Do you have a medical background or anything?
I guess I could say anything I want right now, right? Yeah.
You're a curious soul.
When I was a baby, I was already a scientist. It's amazing. I was born into science. No, I'm not a scientist. We have people. Yeah, exactly. We work with scientists. It's absolutely not my responsibility. Like my angle, I was previously in advertising, so I've been to Advertising Week many times. And my skill, I guess, is simply communication, is understanding what a customer would be looking for and how to stand out from what's already existing in the market.
Right.
So my previous business was a fashion app called Grabble. It became the #1 shopping app in the UK for quite a considerable period. And all we did differently was marketing communication approach, right? Like understanding who our target customer was, why our product would be better for them than anything else was in the market that was a bigger name. It's quite a niche skill, but it's a very good one if you're a founder and understanding how to market your product to customers regardless of what it is.
Yeah, so the products that you're actually bringing out in June the 24th, you said? What makes them different? Because there are so many supplements online. We could, you do a quick Google search now, and you'd be, presented with millions of different vitamins, capsules. You can walk up the road to Holland and Barrett. Like, what's different about the stuff that you're producing? So
we've taken the approach to bypass retail and work direct to consumer, and the main reason for that is margin. So if you sell into retail takes 50% of your margin, which means that when you look into the quality of the ingredients you're getting and how much you're getting in each product, what they do is they say they have all the things on the front of the packet and they all have an asterisk. And if you go on the back of the packet and look at what is actually the detail in that asterisk, is you need about 10 to 12 days worth of most of these products to have the efficacy claims that they're claiming on the front of the pack, which is kind of crazy. So what we're doing is taking a very simple approach, which is we're creating a product where what we say we do is what we actually do in a single day's worth. So we're actually redesigning the whole concept of what a pill should look like. So this is a bit cringy, but it's the right kind of audience. We're basically saying, what would you do if you were to redesign the whole experience? So one of the things you need for a healthy brain are omega-3s. Having previously tried a vegan diet as well, like I'm not one anymore, but pescatarian now, but like the reality is it's very difficult to get the right nutrients in if you're on a plant-based diet. Having really high efficacy level fish oil is fine, but getting that in algae oil, which is the alternative, is very difficult. So what we've done is we found like the highest efficacy algae oil in the world, which comes from Nova Scotia. And we are redesigning the whole experience. So usually you would take algae oil here, micronutrients here, you take a few pills. And what we're doing is applying what we figured would make sense, which is using physics, to say, well, there's no reason why all these things have to be separated. So we actually have an outer layer, which is the algae oil. And inside that, we've injected another pill inside it. So you're literally taking 2 pills in one. Incredible. So it looks incredible because we actually have micronutrients floating inside the main oil. And secondly, you're also having the same as having 2 pills in one. Amazing. So it's basically it's a... what we call like a retention issue in pills. If you actually get people to take too many, they don't take them at all. And so our whole philosophy is everything we're putting into our product is stuff that you should get from nature. And we will be creating recipes and the whole works of actually encouraging people not to take our product. Because actually the problem we have in the supplement market, broadly speaking, is everyone is making claims that you have to take the thing, and actually no one's being real that you can get most of these things from nutrition, and you should. So our approach is, using the famous John Hegarty zig and zag approach, right? Everyone's zigging over here, so you zag, which is you do not need to take our product. But on the basis that you're probably too busy to cook like this every single day, this is literally second best.
Awesome. But it's honest as well, and that's what I love. Literally, this morning on the tube in, I was reading a book, and they were talking. They gave an example of an insurance company based in the US who use this qualifying approach. So they ask 4 or 5 questions to see whether or not you can be a customer for them based on your risk, your age, where you live, all of that stuff. And if they don't think you're a suitable customer, rather than giving you a highly inflated quote, they say, we don't think you should be a customer, and here's some stuff you can do with our competitors.
Well, we actually think our audience are busy urban professionals on the basis of, if you're in the countryside or you have a slower pace of life, you can download a recipe and cook exactly what would go into your brain through food to have a healthy lifestyle. Like not everyone needs supplements. Like that is not brain. Through food, true. Like, you should probably get a blood test and find out what you're deficient in if you really want to geek out on it. But broadly speaking, you can get everything from food. It's just that as someone who lives in London and has a busy lifestyle myself, I understand that quite often you don't, right? Yep. I'm not usually at the luxury of spending hours preparing my food at night. This is this kind of reality that Instagram makes you think that everyone else is doing.
Trips to your allotment.
Exactly.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not hand-picking my vegetables from my allotment myself, sadly.
Okay, so final question is around that approach of taking a D2C approach. You're seeing it a lot more. Like Warby Parker are like one of the great examples of that. You have Casper who also take a similar approach. Why did you choose that? Is it just because you can retain ownership and sort of brand messaging with your customers, or are there other reasons as well?
So the main reason for us anyway, so my previous company was mobile, extremely data heavy. So we really understand data and basically customer communication on a personalized level. Mm-hmm. So from a real basic point of view, like the end goal is always understanding your customer. Mm-hmm. And it's very hard to do that selling into retail. And if you actually have a direct-to-consumer approach, you have the data to understand your customer, to understand what they want, and it makes a very simple approach to try and, I guess, try and optimize their experience in any kind of which way. The other thing as well is genuinely from a price point of view. You know, if you're taking 50% of your margin out, but you're selling a product that has micronutrients in it, suddenly that margin becomes really important. So we literally worked out that the best-selling brain health product in the market on high street retail in Holland & Barrett and Boots, it would take 13 days of their product to get 1 day's worth of ours.
Wow.
And that all comes down to where you're putting your margin. It's just a decision for a business. So it suddenly becomes an incredible competitive advantage to be able to make that claim because it's true.
Yep.
You know, it's not slander or anything, it's literally like for like. And that's quite a disruptive behavior, and that's what direct-to-consumer brands find quite often.
Yeah, so you can pass that cost saving both onto your customer and also ensure that they get higher quality products.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Well, pleasure talking to you, and thank you very much.